the bug line trail, and people had to participate in teams, and they were timed because it was a race. How quickly could you find all 34 caches? And the average time was probably somewhere between like 6 and 8 hours. Some people took over 10 hours to find them all, perhaps had to make 2 trips. One team did it in less than 4 hours, which is amazing. But again, it was a lot of fun getting paired up with other people and finding a bunch of caches together.
Was that you again?
No. We finished in like 6.5 hours. You know, I'm just amazed that a team made it in 3 hours and 15 minutes or something like that. They really were cooking.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have to be on a team to do this, or can you find them as individual caches?
Well, see, that's where it can vary with these spin-offs of board games and TV shows. With Battleship, you can find everything on your own. You know, it was 100 caches. Took us a year to find them all. With Survivor, you're kind of on your own. But in Survivor, to survive, you make alliances with other team members so that you try to find them as a team, you know, 2 or 3 other people. With The Amazing Race, the way the game was set up, you had to be on a team, and if you didn't have anyone that you knew of, they'd pair you up with some people. So it's kind of up to the cache owner on how they're constructing their game. But in the case of The Amazing Race, you have to be on a team because they pair you up, because they were really hard, but they were so much fun. You really needed to be with someone.
You can go out there and get the individual caches now, though.
Right,
They're all published now.
They've all been published, yeah. So
Oh yeah, now the game's over. Now all those caches are there for anybody to find.
how do you find out about these games?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know if everybody heard that. How do you find out about all these different games? Well, first of all, how do you find out about the spin-off TV show, stuff like that? The way you find out about that is, that's a good question. I guess it varies with the game. Sometimes you may not find out about something until it's too late. But very often what happens is, for these various games, a cache will be published that will explain what's going to be happening. So there'll be like a preview cache published that'll say, okay, this is the sign-up cache to participate in this game that's going to happen in a month. So it gives people time to go to the sign-up cache to sign up for the game. And at that web page for that geocache will be the rules and the instructions and all that. Another way is at the WGA website, the Wisconsin Geocaching Association. And if you are not a member of the WGA, which is free, I would strongly encourage you to go there. When you go to their web page, they list right on the home page like every event cache that's coming up for the next several months, so that you know about events like this and other things. And there'll be announcements on cache series coming up, and there's a message board forum where people will, if they're stuck on a puzzle cache or they just want to give a shout out to a great cache that they had fun doing, whatever. I mean, it's all there at the WGA. Yes, Susie?
So that kind of how Amazing Race was done with a preview cache announcement page. Did I heard through the grapevine that there's another one being planned already?
I didn't know there's another one being planned, but with the Amazing Race, they did have, I think, not 1, but 2 preview caches in 2 different areas. I think one, is that right?
One in McGonigal and one in
Yeah, wasn't one in McGonigal and one farther north?
That's right. We did that. We put 2 introduction caches around the Greater Milwaukee area. So, because that is a problem. How do you find out about these things? How do you get the word out? That's really difficult. Of course, now there's one other venue you didn't mention, which is the Wild Bunch geocachers on Facebook. I see a lot of people posting upcoming events and things there, so that's kind of a good way too.
Yeah, let me explain that a little bit. Thanks for that reminder on Wild Bunch. I would guess, this is just a guess, I would guess maybe 1/3 of the people in this room have a Facebook account. I wouldn't necessarily encourage someone to join Facebook if they're not on Facebook, because getting too involved with computer stuff can be unhealthy. But I really like being on Facebook because Well, one of the reasons being the Wild Bunch geocachers. In Facebook, Scott, were you the one who created that?
Got that, yeah.
Me and Kevin Grant.
Okay. Scribble Scribe was one of the people who created the Wild Bunch. And this, I guess I'm going to categorize this as a game. It's not on there though. What happens is in Facebook you can create groups or clubs sort of on whatever your special interest is. And Scrappy Scout and Scribble Scribe, both double S's, try to say those names fast 5 times together. They created a simple group in Facebook called the Wild Bunch Geocachers. And it's open to any geocacher. And it's simply a place where people can post messages if they want to go caching with somebody else. And almost every day, certainly every week, somebody posts a message on there that says, hey, I'd like to find some caches this Saturday in Sussex or at such and so nature preserve or wherever. Does anyone else want to come along? And before you know it, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people that are all of a sudden tagging along and they're off on their adventures. And when people have something like the Amazing Race, they can post that at the Wild Bunch, and all those Wild Bunch will see it. And tomorrow, I think it's, tomorrow, there is going to be a group that I think has grown to maybe 15 or 20 people that are going to find a really, really hard multi-cache where you need to bring like a radio, a flashlight, a book on Braille, the collected works of Shakespeare. I'm not kidding. And maybe 5 or 6 other things, because it's a really hard cache from like the year 2001 or 2002 in Illinois, and just over the border. And so somebody posted a message that they wanted to try to tackle this, but it's really hard, so they need help. And before you know it, there are a bunch of people on Wild Bunch all said, hey, I'll go. So they're going tomorrow. 8 a.m. they're meeting in a parking lot, and they're heading out there as a group. Susie.
I recently got into that group by your invitation, thank you. And as I've been browsing around it, I accidentally stumbled across a voluntary list, where you can identify yourself with your real name and your geocaching name. So now I can't find it again. Can anybody help me how to find it?
It's still there.
Under files. Under files.
Under files? Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. Look under files.
Okay, the next type of game, chirp caches. It's really not a game per se, it's just a tool that can be used in a special type of multi-cache. And what a chirp is, if you don't know what that is, it's a transmitter that will transmit messages sort of like a Where I Go. And there's only a handful of chirp caches that I know of in Wisconsin, but it's something specific just to Garmin, again, where somebody could, let's say, have a 2-point or a 3-point multi-cache, and when you get to the coordinates of one of the waypoints, your GPS will receive a chirp message with instructions for the next waypoint. So again, you have to have a Garmin Oregon, or a Garmin Dakota, or a Garmin Montana, or a Garmin
62C.
GPS Map 62S.
Not a 60X. A CX.
I don't know if that one can do it.
No,
But anyway, but a chirp cache is it's kind of a specialty thing. If you don't have one of those, you just have to hang around with someone who does if you're going to tackle one of those 5 chirp caches in Wisconsin. Yes, Kevin?
Can you get chirp caches with the Where You Go app? Or is it something completely different?
No, it's totally different.
Okay.
Totally different.
That map?
Yes. There should be.
If you don't have that type of garment, can you put it on a different garment? The map?
Well, a chirp cache isn't really a map. It's just transmitting something that your GPS receives a text message. So it's nothing you can really put on there. Okay, the next type, and this is something that I've been really encouraged to see a lot of people starting to jump on the bandwagon with this, is the lonely cache game and cache rescues. I really like them. Here's what the lonely cache game is. A lonely cache is defined as a cache that nobody has found in typically like 6 months to 2 years. And there's tons of them scattered all over Wisconsin. And if you go to the WGA website, they have a list of the 500 loneliest caches in Wisconsin. And every 2 months, the list is updated, because if there's a cache nobody's found in a year and someone finds it, in 2 months when they update the list, it no longer will be listed as a lonely cache. And what happens is, this is sort of a competition, but it's also a service to the geocaching community. When you find a lonely cache, or at least try to find a lonely cache, you get points for trying to find it. And basically, whatever the terrain, or whatever the difficulty level is, and the terrain level, more or less you add those two together. So if it's a 2 difficulty and a 4 terrain, that's a 6. If you're the only, if no one's found it in a year, you get double the points. If you don't find it, you get points. If you find it, you get more points than if you didn't find it. But just trying to find it, you get points. What can you do with the points? Nothing. But you get points and you get your name on the board. I have 130 points this year. Last year, I think I had 12.
Can't get anything to the
And the winners, by the way, like the leaders in Wisconsin, my 130 is like nothing. They're like maybe at 7,000, okay? So 120 isn't a whole lot. But think of all the terrains and the difficulties added together. 130 points is kind of respectable. But what happens is, here's how it's a service to the geocaching community. It might be that nobody's finding it because no one's found it in so long that they don't even want to attempt it. Or maybe the cache is in disrepair and needs somebody out there to fix it up. You get points if you repair a cache. You get points if you rescue a travel bug out of a lonely cache. There's all these different points, and I'm not really going to explain all the points because I don't understand it myself. It's so complicated. But I have gone out with various people, my wife and others, to track down lonely caches. And they're usually not, you know, a guardrail cache. They're like deep out in the woods where you're having a really cool hike to find this thing. And it's just a blast. And one thing that I'm really glad to see, and maybe this has been going on longer, but just in the past year, I've noticed that some of the people in this area, besides just Kim and I, have now started to do the lonelies, as they call it. Becca Day has been finding lonelies, and she'll post messages like on Facebook or at the WGA that she's tracked one down. Chevioli has been looking for them. Wifeoli. Kevin has been looking for them. And Froggers has been looking. I'm just seeing more and more people starting to track down these lonelies, as we call it. Yes, Susie?
Is there a place on the web where the points are kept track of?
Good question. Yes, at the WGA website, right on the home page, it says the Lonely Cache Game. You click on that, it gives you the points, it shows you the leaderboard, you know, who's got what points, and it'll list all 500. And actually, one thing I had to show you on that, I'm actually going to change the page. How about that? Here's a map of Wisconsin. Well, these are all the lonely caches for October. And just yesterday, my wife Kim was caching with 3 gals up in the, well, kind of between Fox Valley from like Appleton to Green Bay. And one of their missions was to go try to rescue a lonely cache. And so they went and they found one. And then they didn't find one. But they had a blast just taking a nice hike. Okay, moving on, because I have only a few minutes left here. On to page 2. We have one type of interesting game called